Below me is the middle branch of the Westfield River. And I'm standing on a bridge that is on the site of 3 bridges that were built here before. These bridges were built to allow access to communities on the east side of the middle branch. And this little community that grew up where these bridges are is quite interesting to see some of the foundations. Oh, the other side here. Look at the previous bridge foundations here. But right to the other side here, you can see a home that was built in the 1740s. Not really a home, an inn. We're in the village of North Chester. And this little village saw George Washington make a stop when he was touring the 13 colonies. Well, the 13 new states, part of his new young nation. Washington slept there. For real. There's a lot of places that say he slept there, but he didn't really sleep there. So this little community was once called a village. It had some services. There are no services anymore. As I said, that was an inn. That would be a service. Right on the other side of that street from what had been an inn is a former one-room schoolhouse, the kind you read about. That's pretty interesting to see it. Imagine that. Imagine walking 2 miles, 3 miles to this schoolhouse. The community, as I say, started out as a result of the bridge connecting a northbound road with an eastbound road. And it's down in the valley of the Middle Branch where this little village grew up. But there's a Baptist chapel right there. An old Baptist chapel that's now kind of a museum. The North Chester Chapel holds meetings once in a while, little historical talks, music sometimes. Particularly interestingly, the chapel being where it is brings you to one of the truths about Baptist chapels everywhere, and that is Baptists like to put their chapels near a water source, a lake, a pond, or a river. And in this case, the North Chester Chapel is right across the street from the Middle Branch. And there's a pool where people were ceremonially baptized to become part of the congregation. People will still get married here. To my right is the gearing from a water mill on the other side of the road that powered a carding operation where they used to card the wool of the merino sheep that were raised in the hills on all sides of North Chester. Up here, there's an interesting little monument that was placed by the family of Elizabeth Kelso, who always ate her lunch here when she went to the one-room schoolhouse. And she lived to be almost 100 years old. But every day, she'd come up here with her lunch, watching for the wagons going down the road, the ice man, the vegetable man. It must have been a big deal when a wagon came by. It's practically a big deal when a car comes by today. Little Elizabeth memorialized here. And we can see one of those walls that crisscross the area that tell us why a little village grew up in what we'd call today almost the middle of nowhere. Big old sugar maple. There's about 10 houses in the neighborhood of North Chester in what we would call the hamlet of North Chester if we were using geographical terminology. So from George Washington to Baptists and Merino sheep, people came to North Chester. Washington was just passing through. But I think some people made some money here. As always happens, when something's being produced that needs a little bit of extra work, you get a secondary or manufacturing interest involved. And you can see just below me here, right next to that roaring middle branch after the spring floods, right? There it is, the foundation of a carding mill. So somebody got the bright idea that he could, like millers had done for years with lumber and grain, they could get themselves involved in the carding of wool. And here, look at this. I've never seen a plan of this factory. And what we are looking at here is the fieldstone foundation. But you can see as we walk along this little path through the periwinkle, more of the foundation. It was probably, I don't know if it would have been behind me. Let me look over here. So here's the river, and we can see a foundation, a dam foundation right here. Okay, so you can see the factory foundation. It goes up and stops. And I would imagine right here somewhere there was a dam. And it looks like just up above us there's a dam or some human work stone up there. So the dam probably came across the river and the water wheel was on the other side. But as I said, I haven't seen the plan of the factory. It could also be true that they were fluming the water here, but I don't see a spillway. Although, look at that low area. It's possible that the wheel was right here. One of many. You get outside and walk a riverbank, and you're going to find your share of old mills. Now look at this. This is pre-mortar. Oh, you can find some pieces of brick in there. Put it right back. I don't want that. And right on the other side, we can see what looks like the east side of the dam as well. Look at right here. It's a foundation of something. So was the dam here, and did it move across the river, across all this bedrock, and anchor itself in here? So what we were looking at right here is what I thought it might have been. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to revise and say, yeah, the water wheel was probably right in here. And water was running over and turning that wheel, or that collection of wheels. It's hard to say. But we're looking at an archaeological remnant built in fieldstone of an old carding mill. Pretty interesting. I am just speculating here. I could look at the property deeds. Wouldn't be that difficult. I am, after all, a historian. But I'm just out for a little stroll. So I like speculating. You see, that flood was way up. And that's where the superstructure of these factories has gone. If you're saying, where's the rest of the factory? Well, the rest of the factory was taken right out by the flash floods, the big flash floods, the big floods that hit this area. In 1927 there was a big one, there was another big one in 36 related to ice, another big one in 38 hurricane related, and there was a double hurricane of 55. Pretty much swept banks of the river clean. Beautiful river, though. As far as the composition of the dam, quite often they made dams like this out of rock cribs. You know, they would take wood, which they have plenty of, and they'd interlace it into a crib and then fill that with rock. And I wonder if that's what they used here. I mean, they've got big hunks of fieldstone over there. And the interesting thing about this river is that although it's roaring right now, in the summertime sometimes it's barely a trickle. So this is a river that you could have definitely dammed up with stone if you wanted to. The only thing you have to think about when you do that is, are you making it strong enough? Because this river will also flood. Look at the capstone right here. And that's got an interesting round circle in it. Do you see? As if to say, ooh, we're standing on top of a well. This is not a good thing for me to do. I just was standing on top of this capstone, and that, as you can see, is a well. My feet were standing on it. Be careful when you're on these ruins, or any ruins. Well, the village in North Czech, full of surprises.